been a great exchange of information. Everyone has been engaged in this 129th Farmers Conference. I think we've lived up to all the expectations. I mean, it's been, as far as the theme goes, in transforming food systems in a changing world. And we can also attest to the fact that this has been a changing world as we look back over the last 12 months. We've learned things, we've done things now more with technology than we've ever done before. So shout out to the IT team because they are helping us navigate this new norm, this new changing world with respect to using all the technology that is at our disposal. We are so blessed and thankful for all the participants, all the partners, all the agencies, both federal, state, local, the farming community, community-based organizations, those educational institutions, all of those entities that you represent for participating with us and being with us during this historic 129th. Kind of a throwback to one of our farmers conferences back in 1896. We just reached back, we talked with Dr. Zabawa the other day, and you know, he's the person who we can always depend on to look back at some of the historic events. And it was at one of those events in 1896, the Farmers Conference, March 5th through the 6th, 1896, where the objectives were find out from the people themselves the facts as to their condition and get their ideas as to the remedies for the present evils. And then get information as to how the young men and women now being educated can best use their education in helping the masses. There were over 1,000 participants at that particular farmers conference in 1896. And we fast forward to 2021. And with this first virtual farmers conference, and it just makes it accessible to literally thousands of people. How far have we come? Thank you all for being here. We're going to go now into the hour that we are going to celebrate, commemorate, and be thankful and recognize our Merit Farm Family of the Year, our Thomas Monroe Campbell Leadership Award recipient, as well as the Thomas Monroe Campbell family, and also our Outstanding Partner of the Year. And also, we're just looking forward to a great presentation from our keynote speaker. But without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over now to one of our own, Demetrius Hooks, who is also part of the university and is also a farmer as well. Demetrius, as you have the floor.
Good day, everyone. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker of the day, Mr. Jabron Jones Burchett of Hosco out of St. Louis, Missouri. Jabron began farming at the age of 6 and continued until he was 18. From there, he attended Kansas State University, and upon returning to St. Louis, found that his architectural degree didn't guarantee him a job. Shortly afterwards, he decided to return to producing food and has done that since 2010. Jabron has worked through his nonprofit 501c3 Hosco company in St. Louis to address food access problems, nutritional education, and improving economic conditions through locally produced foods and products. Jabron has been building and developing and teaching aquaponics and workforce development since 2012 and has trained directly under Will Allen of Growing Power, an internationally known grower and leader in urban agriculture, aquaponic food production and systems. development. After working to build several systems for Growing Power in Kansas City and at Growing Power's location in Milwaukee, HOSCO was formed to create similar processes in St. Louis. Jabron is currently working on the North Sarah Food Hub, known as the NSFH. The NSFH is a $1.2 million shared use kitchen on the North Sarah Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri. The NSFH serves as a place for community members to make products in a licensed kitchen. The facility focuses on training, educating students and apprentices in the agricultural, plant-based culinary and development value-added packaging food products through HOSCO, WIOA, and Department of Labor apprenticeship program. Last year, NSFH opened and began preparing plant-based meals from produce grown at their farm location and prepared a total of 220,000 meals and distributed over 800,000 pounds of produce to thousands of seniors and families in need in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Jabron is also the co-founder of Coherence and HOSCO Farms, a 240-acre organic farm facility that distributes fresh produce to HOSCO. NSFH commercial processing kitchen, where value-added products are made for retail sales through their Copa. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. HOSCO's newest grocery delivery operation that will deliver foods directly to homes. Ladies and gentlemen, Jabron Jones Burchett.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this phenomenal conference. I remember connecting with Tuskegee a couple years back, and I was present at the conference at that time, and I was blown away by essentially what was offered by the conference, but then also the number of people that I met there from the different universities and different farmers and whatnot. And so for me, that was very encouraging for myself to see other farmers that looked like myself that were involved and engaged in the local food movement. Today, I would like to kind of go into a little bit of detail of what it is that we do here in St. Louis. And how that connects to the theme of this particular conference. Our work as HOSCO, which stands for Holistic, Organic, Sustainable Cooperative Organization, just as the name suggests, we try to focus on holistic principles and goals in terms of food production, organic food production, as well as sustainable food production, and doing so in such a manner so that it creates opportunity for others through cooperative organizations. And so the parent 501c3 HOSCO focuses on more of the training organization for the 3 co-ops that we've created. We've kind of created a 3-sleeve co-op for our organization. The first being the farm, the second being the food hub and commercial kitchen, which you can see where I am now, which is located on North Sarah Avenue, hence the name North Sarah Food Hub, which services a big part of the St. Louis community, community of people that look like us, people who traditionally have been overlooked. But what our goal is to help empower them through food. And so I'm going to kind of jump right into our presentation. So the theme of this presentation, and I wasn't able to get a presentation fully together in time because of we're still in the process of delivering and preparing meals for COVID. But the theme of this this particular presentation that I'm doing is called Cream. So I don't know if anyone has any familiarity with hip hop, but my background in agriculture, architecture, hip hop, and also culinary. Through my journey, I was able to connect with a hip hop group by the name of Wu-Tang. And while I was working there, I got a sense of community because of how they organize. But one of their songs was called Cream, and Cream stands for Cash Rules Everything Around Me. And so for this particular presentation, I'd like to reimagine that acronym and use the word crop. Crops rule everything around me. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by crops rule everything around me? Well, the basics of our food system all revolves around produce, the production of food, the movement of that food as it goes through the food system. Once it gets to each of the locations, there's obviously something that takes place in that process. A lot of times you find food that is raw, that comes from the farm. It goes to a place kind of like this, which is a food hub. And then they would process, wash the food. Some of it's kept raw, and then they would distribute it out to the community. So what we do essentially here, is we receive food from our farm. All the produce comes from that location. That location is out in the North County. But it's a 240-acre farm. The produce comes into this location, and once it gets to this location, the food is then made into meals for seniors, or we wash the produce and then we distribute it out through a cooperative grocery business that we've established, that we launched last year in the midst of the pandemic. And the reason why we launched that is because there was a number of different people that were interested in getting food. A lot of the seniors didn't have the capabilities to get out and go into the grocery stores because they are one of the populations that at risk. And so what we decided was that we would take it upon ourselves to get the food out to the people. And so with that, we've created an online grocery in which people can log online, they can order, and we'll distribute the produce directly to them. In addition to that, we also offer prepared meals as well as family dinners as well. And so without going into too much detail of that, I'm going to circle back around to that and kind of give you a little bit of my background. As Mr. Hooks stated, I have a background in architecture. I started growing around the age of 6. My parents and my grandparents actually introduced me to producing food. And as I was growing up in North St. Louis, my childhood was pretty much like a normal childhood. I was able to, obviously play sports and things like that. But the difference between, I would say, my childhood and most of my friends was that we had a farm. And even though that farm wasn't a substantial, large farm, it was a small farm right next to a 4-family apartment building that my parents owned. We had about a 17 to 20,000 square foot plot of land. And that began my introduction into farming. Years later, during that time, I didn't really know how I didn't really see the connection. I just felt that it was something that my parents were doing to save cost on food. I did actually think that it was fun to be out there farming until it got time to harvest things and harvest green beans and things like that, and have to snap the green beans and do that stuff with my mother. But those are things that as I got older, I learned to appreciate. And so as a child, you know, some of the main things that my parents instilled in me were the sense of family. You know, as it stands right now, we are focused on supporting and helping a number of different families in the community. And a lot of that stems from how, as I was growing up, my family interacted with the local community and other families in the community. We would produce a number of vegetable crops on our land, and those vegetable crops, you know, it was just a lot. You know, we couldn't process everything. We didn't want stuff to go bad in the field, so we wound up distributing some of that to the local community. And we found that in doing that, we were actually helping out other people in the local community. Some of our neighbors, you know, at the time we didn't know, but some of our neighbors, eventually we found out that the food that we were providing to them was actually helping to feed their family in a more substantial way than we had actually thought. And so those kind of things and memories stick with me. And those are some of the things that influence me now as the executive director of this organization, and trying to map out the path of what our next steps are. I try to keep those things, you know, close to me as I'm making decisions moving forward. I often find myself thinking about, you know, what would my father do? And I'm blessed that my father is still with me, so I can actually go and talk to him and ask him, what would you do in this situation? A lot of times, do the same thing with my mother. I ask her, even my sisters. And so these family values, I try to instill them into the workplace with the individuals that run our kitchen. So our executive chef, you know, I try to instill those family values in with him, making sure that when we prepare food, we want to make sure that the food is the best quality food. We want to make sure that people are not receiving overly processed foods that could cause them further illness, health problems, especially during this time of the pandemic. And so the sense of community is something that really sticks with me, and I try to instill that in the individuals that work with me within the organization. Education is also one of those values that my parents have instilled in me, and you know, we talk about education as it relates to school. So grade school, junior high, senior high, university, and then even you know, grad level, postgraduate. But the other aspect of education comes from us trying to learn more about how we could leave this planet better than what we found it, and that comes from doing research on practices that have worked, let's say, in agriculture previously, that maybe it worked previously, but as we try to develop and become better producers and more sustainable producers, then we have to make adjustments. And so in order to make those adjustments, we always have to be learning. We always have to study. So the journey for me, and this is something that I also share with the rest of my team, the journey for me in terms of education, it doesn't end with the university. It doesn't end with high school, grade school. It's a continuous journey, and that continuous journey is something that kind of guides me along my path as I'm making decisions for the organization. One of the other values that has been instilled in me is entrepreneurship. You know, we run a workforce program here with the Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Labor, and also with St. Louis City, St. Louis Agency on Training, and also St. Louis County. So pretty much we work with all the workforce boards. And as much as there's a need for jobs in the city, and that's what the workforce boards normally focus on is jobs. A lot of you that are hearing my voice right now and seeing me speak, you know that there's only a certain amount of jobs that are available in agriculture. And most of those jobs are dealing with either large scale farming, commodity crops, monocrops, things of that nature. And then there are some other farmers that deal in specialty crop. And one of the issues that I've kind of noticed that was taking place with the university and some of the professors and the deans that I've spoken with is that as students graduate, they go to look for jobs. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of those jobs they may wind up working in, cooperative extension and that's great because we need individuals that are brilliant in those particular professions. But I think it's important for us to really focus on this, creating and building and providing platforms and incubation places for entrepreneurs so that they can thrive in this particular space. And that only comes when you have individuals who have kind of paved the road and then have looked back and say, well, how can I help out this up and coming generation? How can I provide them with the know-how, the skills, and even kind of make it a little bit easier for them to become an entrepreneur? Because that's really what we need. We don't necessarily need pushing people and shuffling them into individual jobs. We actually need people to become entrepreneurs. And so this particular space that we're in, as we talk about agriculture and food production, we want to really focus on understanding how we can all become entrepreneurs and producers in this food space. And then as we become those entrepreneurs, we need to start thinking about how we can start working together and collaborating and creating our own systems in which we're supporting each other and we're thriving. And so as it relates to how we've been operating, I'm going to go back to, for example, our farm. Our farm is set up as an incubation location for up and coming farmers. Why did we do this? We could have just produced food ourselves, sold the food, made money off of it, and kept it moving. But instead, if we're really going to make an impact to what's considered impoverished communities, if we're really going to make an impact to farmers that have systemically through the years been placed in situations where they're at a disadvantage. If we're really going to make an impact, then what we need to do is start focusing on creating entrepreneurs in this space, and not just the agriculture space, right? So agriculture is a huge area where you can become a farmer. In farming, you can grow a number of different crops. You can even grow microgreens, which is one of the things that we started off with. A lot of people don't know about microgreens. Microgreens are a very lucrative crop. And you get the product 12 to 14 days. You turn around, you sell it to restaurants and places like that, catering companies, and you can actually generate a substantial amount of income from that. But when you generate that income, what do you do with it? You build your business, and then you have to depend on other people for you to sell your produce to, right? So when we grew the microgreens, we had to find someone to sell it to. A lot of times, they already either had someone that was purchasing from them, because of the cost of what we were producing, we couldn't meet that low price point because they may have been purchasing from a national producer that has, that distributes foods from let's say Mexico or somewhere where they can get it at a lower cost. So there's a lot of things that go into that. And so what we try to do here is create a platform so that if you are an individual that are interested in farming, you can come to this location. We can provide you with the know-hows, the skills, and the tools to become a farmer. You can use our land to farm on. And by using that land to farm on, you can sell to your own individual customers, but we do, as part of being part of this collective, we do expect you to sell back to the individual co-op itself. That's how you keep the co-op thriving. And so by selling back to the co-op at a lower price, we then purchase from those farmers, okay, those crops. Those crops then come into our location here, and this location serves as a community location to also create entrepreneurs that are interested in developing food products. So in this space, there are a number of different areas. So you have the farmers, and then you have the actual manufacturers and food producers, which is what this location serves as. And so this is an incubation spot. The North Sarah Food Hub is an incubation spot that is in the middle of what's considered a promise zone, a low-income community, a community that has very little resources. And so we applied for a grant for the USDA to establish this food hub to not only serve as a place where we can bring other aspiring food producers. We can train them in the culinary arts. We have a four-month culinary program. 3 of those months focus on building up their culinary skills. That's going to provide them the skills that they need to produce what are considered value-added products. Well, what are a lot of us are farmers, so we know what value-added products, but I'm going to go ahead and humor some of you and just say value-added products can be something like if I'm growing tomatoes and I want to make marinara, right? So last year we grew San Marzano tomatoes. We brought those San Marzanos to the food hub. We processed those San Marzano tomatoes so that we could make marinara sauce that we then sold to the St. Louis Public Schools. And the St. Louis Public Schools has an ongoing purchasing agreement with us. And then what that does is that allows us to then continue to make products for them, but then also place individuals that have come to our food hub incubation location. We kind of give them a step up because we have this contract. We can say to those individuals that have come here, that have completed the training program, that have their certification and everything, and they're ready to move to that next level to become an entrepreneur in the fourth month of our training. We work with them to develop products, and then those products are then sold to the current vendors and clients that we actually have. And so essentially we're giving them the opportunity, or we're giving them the push that they need to be able to produce food for larger corporations that typically would not necessarily even look at them. And so what this space serves as is an incubation space, very much similar to our farm, where food producers can come and produce food. And then the last part of the equation, which I failed to mention previously, deals with what happens to that food after it's processed, right? So last year, while we were in the midst of creating food for seniors, we launched our online grocery cooperative. And the reason why we started online is because obviously we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we wanted to minimize the number of people coming to this particular location. And at that time also, a lot of our clients were seniors, individuals that were homebound. And so we had to find a way to get the food out to them. So it didn't necessarily make sense in us building out the construction for our grocery, which will be coming next. It just made more sense for us to do it online first and then develop a distribution platform. So as people order that food, then we can distribute that food directly out to them. Now, eventually, obviously, we will build out our cooperative grocery, but we're going to wait until the pandemic has ended. And so this is, Kelly, my director of operations, just came in and she wanted me to touch upon a couple things, and she's right. The type of work that we do, it does require capital. And this is one of the things that I actually had a conversation with Mr. Hooks last night, and several times. In order to do this type of work, it requires a substantial amount of capital. And so what we've been able to do to raise that capital, most of our capital comes from grants. Okay, we do know that grants are not fully sustainable. We do know that we need to find other ways to generate income, which is why we've launched the cooperative grocery, right? So that allows us to generate income, and then that income gets put back into our operations. So what we've been doing now is examining other opportunities to generate income so that we can supplement the capital that's needed for our operations. We're running right now at about a $1.6 million annual budget. And we know that that is only going to increase as we start to uncover greater needs for food. And then as we start to expand our operations. Some of our grants have come from USDA. We have local funders, Missouri Foundation of Health, which is the largest funder here in St. Louis. We also collaborate with a number of restaurants in the region as well. So last year we launched this food hub. I think it was like March 22nd is when it actually opened. And since that time, as Mr. Hooks announced, we've produced about 220,000 meals. And we're up to about 5,000 meals a week right now. All of our meals are plant-based meals. The reason why we chose to make plant-based meals is because a number of the different individuals that are living in the community that we service, they have a lot of health-related issues, and those issues, quite frankly, are related to their diet. And so because we wanted to be a place where we can heal people as opposed to create illnesses for them, we felt that if they're not normally eating vegetables and things like that, then it's our responsibility, if we're going to be providing them the food, is to feed them the food that's going to make them healthy, as well as feed them food that they have traditionally learned to eat one way, but then we show them another way to eat it, and it's almost like they're eating a totally different meal. So it kind of sparks their interest into eating different things, and then we also, sparks their interest in eating the things that they've traditionally been eating in different ways. But then it also allows us to kind of sneak some things in there that they have traditionally not tried or don't too much know about. So we've added things like cell tubes. We've added, this is a funny one. We have out at the farm, we have pigweed that grows, and pigweed to Jamaicans is callaloo. But a lot of people in the city that we service, they don't actually know anything about pigweed. Some of them know a little bit about callaloo, but to Jamaicans, pigweed is callaloo, and it's basically just green amaranth. And so this out on our farm is a weed to us that grows. However, it's very nutritious. And we, instead of throwing it away like we were doing in the first year, we actually take that and we process it, make it into meals, and we distribute it to the community. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that we're healing people and not necessarily making them sicker during the pandemic. So we right now work with about 20 to 25 different organizations, 3 different food banks, Salvation Army. We also work with about 25 different restaurants that help to supplement those 5,000 meals. We just have some meals that were dropped off by 2 restaurants today. St. Louis Community Foundation, which is an organization that provides funds.
And the red bar move, and then the microphone start having something green, green.
Can everybody hear me?
Let's see.
Hello? I just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. We have someone that was trying to come in and they're unmuting, so I'm muting them. Please go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay,
There's someone trying to get in the session.
okay. So we have about 25 different restaurants that we work with here in St. Louis. Most of those are fine dining restaurants. One of our board members by the name of Gerard Kraft owns about 4 different restaurants, fine dining restaurants here. During the pandemic, he closed all of his restaurants, at least during the start of the pandemic. They've reopened some of the restaurants since then, but during the start of the pandemic, he closed all of his restaurants. And as most of the restaurants in St. Louis closed, they had all of this food that was left over. And so the food that was left over, they didn't want it to go bad. So they reached out to us and asked if they could donate it to us, and we would give them a tax letter as a tax write-off for them donating the food. And then that food we then took and we made into meals and distributed out to the community. So that was the beginning of what happened last year with the pandemic. And then it transitioned towards us securing funding from different other organizations to continue to provide these meals. None of these meals during the pandemic was part of our original plan for this facility. The original plan was essentially cooperative grocery, processing kitchen that also serves as a culinary school, and then also our farm. And that was pretty much it. But since that time, we've uncovered a number of different pockets of individuals that were not, receiving food and getting food. And oftentimes in these typical situations, when there's a pandemic or crisis, there's different pockets that go overlooked. And so seniors was one of those major pockets. And so we partnered with St. Louis Housing Authority to provide meals directly to those senior buildings. So I think we're supporting right now at least 7 senior buildings. We're providing thousands of meals per week to thousands of individuals. And then we also work with the St. Louis County and the St. Louis County Housing Authority, and we distribute meals to those locations as well. So even though this was not something that we anticipated that we would be getting into, even though that's something that we didn't anticipate, it's something that now is on our permanent radar. And so that means that we're going to continue to make these meals, and we're going to continue to provide produce to those individuals that need it in those areas. And so that's kind of like a nutshell of what our operation currently has experienced, a little bit about my background. And then I guess the next thing I want to kind of go into is kind of like, what's next? What does our future look like? And to be quite honest, I'm not sure, because we've been presented with a number of different opportunities. We found other spaces that would assist us in helping to develop this local food community. And so this kind of ties into, I'm getting ready to tie directly into the theme of this particular conference. So since we've already established a farm, a processing hub, and a retail grocery operation, what we're looking at doing is focusing on training individuals to become food producers. The more individuals that we train to become food producers, the more resilient the food system becomes. If we only focus on food that comes from outside the region, we're always dependent on food that comes from outside the region. And in order to make a local food system resilient, you need to be producing food, much more food than what we're doing now, but food locally. So not only just the agricultural crops, but taking those crops, creating value-added product. We need more food producers. We need more farmers, definitely, but we need more food producers, people to take those products that come from the farm and create the consumer packaged food goods. And so with me saying that, that is one of the next steps that we're looking at doing, is creating a consumer packaged food company that is made up of people from the community that we have come across that have an interest in becoming food producers. Many of them have their own businesses. Many of them are trying to stay afloat. And I feel that it is, we have a great responsibility to assist them in not just staying afloat, but becoming successful. And so we are looking to expand our operation this year. We're looking at expanding to having a warehousing, dry goods, and more cold storage warehousing. Because as we start to develop those products, we'll need to house those products in a warehouse. We're looking at developing our own, we're going to be purchasing our own labeling, bottling machines, packaging machines, so that we could give other individuals that have interest in developing their own products, a number of different farmers, a number of different culinary professionals, giving them the opportunity to produce those food products. And then because of the clientele and the relationship that we have built, we can sell those products or provide a pathway for those individuals to sell those products if they're made in the correct space and if they're made the correct way. And so to give you an example of what that looks like, there's a number of different food producers that are here in St. Louis City. And they've been trying to get their food into different grocery stores, smaller grocery stores, larger supermarkets, different places. And they've been having difficult times because they don't have the insurance. They may not have the health permits. They may not have made everything in a licensed commercial kitchen. So that's what this place is for. This place is to help incubate them, to get them to that level. Another thing that we're going to be working on in the future is we're expanding our incubation operation, so that because of the work that we've been doing, we've been able to garner the support of investors, some from New York, some that are here in St. Louis. And through a number of conversations with them, I presented the idea to them that if we have these individuals that want to develop these products and bring these products to market, would you be interested in supporting them or putting some investment capital in these individuals, these businesses, after they've come through the incubation process? And I'm not talking about, as they call it, vulture capitalism. As they call venture capitalism. I'm talking about people that really want to make a social impact with their funds and still generate a return on their investment without, you know, creating a scenario where the person who is the entrepreneur who's producing everything is only working just to pay a bill to an investor, because that destroys the creativity of that individual entrepreneur. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be launching. We probably won't launch that until next year, but we do have the funders that are currently in place that have given us the commitment to supporting any of the entrepreneurs that have come through our space that are looking to take their business to the next level and launch them. So once they complete here, they'll have certificates, they'll have their ServSafe certification, they'll have their health permits, they'll have everything that they would need to be a food producer. In addition to that, anyone who completes our program, they get to use the space. And they get to buy from our, purchase from the farm at a lower rate than what they would purchase from anywhere else. So we're really trying to give people the opportunity and the leg up to become successful. And that's really what our organization is about. It's not about necessarily us as an organization becoming successful and yes, we have this nice commercial facility. We're building out another location. We have, our own distribution model pretty much set up. But it doesn't do anything for us if it's not available for other people to help create a more resilient food system. And so that's what we're really trying to do here at Hosco and the North Sarah Food Hub is to create a more resilient food system. And so I will yield to answer any questions because I've been guilty of being a little verbose in the past when I'm doing presentations and things like that. But I want to yield so that I can answer any questions, because I'm sure people have questions about, what we're doing here and how we, came about building what we have here, and, some of the other questions that I may not have answered. Are there any questions from anybody?
And Demetrius will yield to you to lead the Q&A.
Okay, sorry about that.
What was that, Miles?
Well, we'll yield to you to lead the question and answer session.
Okay, I didn't know since he was the keynote speaker. I thought we were just gonna have his assistant Kelly also put in the chat an email address where you can directly send Gibran any of your questions, or you wanted to contact them directly to have a deeper conversation about the plethora of information that he's presented to us today.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we could be our. It's a lot of information, but if there's any burning question up there, he's done such a great job, great presentation, great story, and it really keeping with our theme. I mean, just transforming food system. You talked about it in a changing world.
Mr. Robinson, I'm sorry, Ms. Robinson, may I show a screen real quickly? May I show share my screen for a second? I want to show you guys something.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to share this with you guys right here. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, this is the model that we've been working on. Our goal is to build this model here as cost effectively and as efficiently as possible, and then work with other locations to replicate this model. So whether it be, we're working with Tuskegee University. I'm very familiar with the farmers there down the southern farmers, and what I'm interested in doing is creating a very similar model of what we're doing here there, so that farmers who have produce, they can move their produce to the places that it's needed, and if they need to make value-added products or they want to make value-added products, they have the opportunity to do it. So I am, I am more than willing and open to share as much knowledge as I can on some of the things that we've been through, some of our ups, but I think it's more important to show, to express a lot of our downs, so that people don't necessarily go through the same mistakes that we have. And I will also share, if anyone is interested, I didn't really go into this presentation because I kind of wanted to talk about a lot more of the stuff that we were doing, but I'm also willing to share this presentation with other people so that they can kind of see what we've built as a model here. And I'm open to collaborate in the future with anyone that wants to try to build, not try, but to build a similar model where they are.
Sounds great. We thank you for that. Demetrius, you have any closing remarks on that?
No, I think it was a great presentation, and really thank you so much, Mr. Burchett, for providing us with your insight into your organization and your nonprofit and what y'all doing, what the amazing job that y'all doing up there in St. Louis, even in the midst of this pandemic. We've had ongoing conversations throughout the summer, and just each time I would call you, you were updating me on something, some other great achievement or great outreach that y'all were doing. So we're so glad that you could come and present us with that story today as we come to the end of this presentation. Miles, I think the next thing is to go on to the Merit Farmer Award.
Thank you so much, Demetrius, for leading that presentation. And thank you so much to Mr. Burchett for sharing with all that you're doing in that community and your willingness to share with this group and others in this area. You're doing some great work, and we can learn a lot. And we thank you again. We can't thank you enough. So let's give him a round of applause virtually. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.